All right, testing, testing, one, two, three. It's the first time actually I've actually done this using the YouTube live stream to try to make this private so I can go in and re-edit it, but whatever. I'm DBJ, if you don't know, Devabrian Jackson, and here are my 7 tips to make a boss fight. All right, now we're going to start off with you got to generate the hate, right? And the reason why I want to do this video as one of a number of videos where I want to go back to my original ones where it's bring back the magic. I want to use some of the simple things that we've kind of forgotten to make some of these classic tropey, exciting, but, at the time when we were young, it was really cool, but now it's kind of gotten boring and we've gotten away from it. So I want to bring some more energy to it. So I've seen over the course of years about how to do a boss fight. How come every time I put my big boss guy in the fight, it's over in one round, everybody piles on the rabbit, game's over, it's done. And even if the players feel like they've had a good time, the game master's like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling this, right? So here are my tips. The first one is generate the hate. Now, essentially, this is having the boss show up, but not really being part of the scene, right? Because if the big boss shows up, the first thing that somebody's going to do is snipe him. Okay, so you want to start generating the hate long before the boss actually shows up. So just like in the Curse of Strahd, everybody wants to eventually confront Strahd in the Ravenloft Castle. Everybody wants to blow through all the minions and get to the main bad guy. So to generate that hate, what you want to do is you want to establish a voice for him. You want to have his voice in the background verbally. You want to have giant posters that are like, splattered all over the city where people were like paying homage to this a-hole. You want the idea that this bad guy is ever present in the players' minds and in their background, so that they get really annoyed, right? So when they go into a tavern and order a drink, the bartender's like, the only drink we serve is Lord Stavros, purple ale or something like that. And it's just like, oh, do I have to drink this guy? Like he's got his own drink named after him and I got to drink this crap. I hate it. So having his voice heard is going to be very important when this leads up to the boss fight, because you want to establish the bad guy's background. You want to establish their mood. You want to establish their intent, how they have their power in the world and how it is established in the world. You want to leave a lot of evidence that this bad guy is a really bad guy. Torture victims, old ladies with bruises on their face. There's a term in the movies called kicking a puppy, right? You have the bad guy show up and kick the puppy, right? You have the bad guy, punch an old lady or steal something from a child, or the one innocent person in the story just is completely, brutalized by this guy, right? And or lady or thing or being, and it just forces the player characters to just want to hate him. Now, to further this kick the puppy idea, you take a valued NPC, someone who's innocent, maybe a tavern owner or a cousin or younger brother or sister of a player character, and you have the bad guy do something to them. Now, you don't necessarily have to have that thing be death, right? It makes it worse when it's not death. Putting someone's eye out, chopping off a finger, bankrupting them, embarrassing them in the public, setting them up for downfall, petty things, stealing something from stealing something from them, and like stealing a bone from a puppy just because they can do it, right? You also want to maybe generate a couple of proxies, bad guy proxies. You know, the person that comes into town with a scroll and says, by order of Lord Stavros, everyone must pay 50 gold pieces in taxes, right? And everyone's like, I don't want 50 gold pieces. I've never seen gold in my life, you know, and they start stealing people's rice and grain and kicking in the doors to, you know, take these taxes. The movie, in a movie, Braveheart, you know, they establish a rule where Longshanks is like, oh, we get to have, essentially we get to have sex with your wife on your wedding day, right? And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, this guy's got to die. You know, the movie John Wick, killed the puppy, right? Killed the dog. Everything else after that is it's just open season. They're allowed to get away with whatever harm they do to the bad guy, right? So these are the things you want to do. You want to you know, have this big bad disrespect the players, disrespect their world. Now, at some point, you want the bad guy to actually show up, to have a public face. And the real way to do that is to set up a situation where the players are in such a location that they cannot strike at the bad guy, okay? And this may seem, now of course I'm giving you these tips in the trade because they're going to seem kind of quantum ogre-ish, kind of like railroady a little bit, but the reason being is because you want to step up the challenges. So if the bad guy shows up in a public place, have far too many guards, far too many weapons, make the consequences of acting against this person so detrimental that the players will not do anything, right? If the players try to snipe the bad guy, you know, have the entire army turn against them, have the public love this big bad, you know, have them, you know, if anyone even disrespects this person, if you don't even bow down or get down on one knee in front of them, that the players will lose face. They may lose resources. They'll lose favor with the gods. They will not be able to go to the wizard's tower. They will have their resources and honor revoked. And lastly, of course, the fact that they could die, right? Have them, and set this up beforehand, right? They come into town, you have to leave your weapons, you have to, you know, leave off your armor, like having a grand dinner or whatever. Have one of those events happen where the players are off guard, and then the bad guy shows up and then leaves. Don't have them stay around too long. Just have them in the background, have an image of them, maybe step up to one of the NPCs, say something to them. Maybe the NPC goes away crying, or is in pain, or is arrested, or has their business stolen from them, or slapped in the face, and then the bad guy leaves. And this is going to make your players want to go after him immediately. And that's why you have to set up a situation where they can't do it. Now, that's the first tip. Kind of rambled about that like I do my normal rambly way, but that's the first tip. The second tip is deplete the player character resources. And again, like I said, this is kind of quantum ogreish, meaning like it's like showing you how the sausage is made. But in most role-playing games, you will have resources. Those resources might be ammo, money, contacts, hit points, the ability to heal, all of those things. You want to deplete those resources as best as possible, because if the players are at their full power, they will absolutely positively use every single one of their resources at their highest ability the very first moment they can, boosting each other, buffing each other, and slam down on your bad guy. Why? Well, the bad guy is not going to allow him, her, itself to be attacked without being prepared, right? This is a person or a creature that knows they're bad, that knows they're going to have enemies, so they will not allow themselves to be attacked by someone at full strength. So they will do things to deplete the player character's resources. Now, how can you do this without just pissing off your players by taking all their crap, right? What you want to do is you want to confound their skills and capabilities before they meet the bad guy. So, in other words, whatever their skills are, because you want to allow this to be a challenge. This isn't punishment, it's a challenge, all right? Have your spellcasters, if you're playing a medieval game, have your spellcasters need to utilize spells to get to the bad guy. Need to utilize healing to get to the bad guy, the big bad. To need to, if someone's sneaky, have them make a lot of stealth rolls. If they're strong, have them break open things and bend bars and move doors. If they're intelligent, have them figure out puzzles. Put in front of these people so many challenges that require the use of their skills until they can get to the big bad. If they are in a big tower, have them have to go through 2, 3, 4 iron grates. Have them have to use a spell to destroy something, whatever. Also, your big bad is not going to want to allow them the chance to rest, recoup, and recover. All right? They're going to be harassed. They're going to be harassed by, which is going to be my third point, they're going to be harassed by minions and bodyguards. Right? Not every big bad is going to be a political figure. Okay? I mean, they could be a mob boss. They could be head of a kingdom. They could be, running the Underdark or something. Okay? Surround them with a ton of minions and bodyguards. Now, you don't want this to be a dice slog, right? Because I've made that mistake before where he's like, I'm going to have them fight 200 goblins, and you're just rolling dice, and do you kill another goblin? Roll some dice, you kill 2 goblins. Roll some dice. That gets boring. What you want is you want them to be confounded by the minions and the bodyguards. Now, minions are essentially, some people call them one-hit point creatures. You can even make it even simpler than that and just say, hey, if you roll a hit, you take out a guy. They're always soldiers. They're goblin soldiers, flunkies. They always have an attitude. They always think they're more important than they really are, but they're just there for cannon fodder. Let the players describe how they take out 1, 2, 6, 18 minions at a time with spells, with power, with weapons. If it's science fiction, because I should insert that, whether they're taking them out with missiles or laser weapons or something, right? Have the bodies pile, and don't have it all happen at one time. 5 minions show up. Later on, 10 minions show up. Later on, 15 show up in battle armor. Another 25 show up on horseback with chariots and wolves, and on the back of elephants with siege weapons, right? But they're minions. Allow the players to feel important while burning their resources, using their ingenuity, feeling awesome until they are depleted. The big bad says, hey, now I can take them out because they are a threat to me. Bodyguards. Now, bodyguards are, if you just take a look at any classic 007 movie, the main bad guy in a 007 movie usually isn't strong or fast or quick, but his bodyguard is, right? So a bodyguard can be any kind of creature. Say you have a red dragon. Well, maybe the red dragon's bodyguard is like a fire giant, an elemental, a pair of demons, something like that. And a bodyguard doesn't just have to be one creature. It can be multiples of them. But these creatures are tough. They're capable, they're powered, they have been given, the big bad is going to want to know who's coming after them and has some intimate knowledge of their capabilities, knows that there's a wizard, knows that there's a powerful paladin, and uses techniques to take them out. Usually the bodyguards should be equal to or better than any one of the player characters, right? So if the bodyguard is piled on, player characters are probably going to take them out. But you want this bodyguard to be just as capable, you know, a red dragon with, you know, an Ifrit, 2 demons, and 16 fire giants. It's going to be pretty damn tough. And they're going to surround themselves with these very tough, very experienced, and loyal bodyguards. Now, the loyalty doesn't have to mean that they believe in them as, you know, godlings or something like that. The loyalty can be through money, coercion. It could be through promises of power. It could be the removal of a curse or a return to a homeland or anything of that nature. The removal of an enemy. Now, with these minions, with these bodyguards, reskin, reskin, reskin. What do I mean by that? Take the stat block, throw a different blanket over top of it, make it something else, okay? Because if you want this big bad, and I think this might be one of the more important ones, if you want the big bad to seem like they are a singular entity, give them immense power and reskin all of these other creatures, stat blocks, and such as the power of the bad guy. So an example would be the Lord Stavros raises his hand and strikes at you with a bolt of lightning snatched from the sky and throws it at you. And the ball lightning flies through the air, going around the room, searching you out. Maybe the ball lightning is some kind of electrical elemental, okay? Make it a creature, but it looks like it's coming, the power is coming out of them. And maybe Lord Stavros points at the ground and brings up a big wall of fire, and the wall of fire is a fire elemental. Or Lord Stavros' very shadow sneaks around the room and strikes a character from behind, and it's a shadow demon or something. Reskin this. Maybe the creature has a long tongue, and that tongue is a giant python. The creature has, you know, vast mental powers, and something unseen, is unseen mind can, you know, lift things into the air as if this has telekinetic power or psionics or something like that. Well, don't go through the psionics book. Just make it an invisible stalker. You know, you can surround the big bad with creatures, but never call them creatures. And of course, from an earlier video I did about the inner voice, describe things in such a way to allow the player characters to confront them adequately in the rules. So in other words, Lord Stavros summons a ball of lightning, throws it at the player characters, and you can say to the paladin and the fighter or whatever, you know, do you want to all out dodge? I mean, you feel like you can strike at this thing. It feels like it's living power unto itself. And the player characters can then make that decision. You mean I could hurt it? Yeah, it's not a skin. You don't have to, you know, maybe the player's like, oh, I want to make a save or add this thing, get advantage on a saving throw. Oh, no, it rolls to attack. And it misses you, but it rolls around the room and comes at you again. The hairs on your arm, you know, lighting up. What do you do? And to make it dynamic so that the player characters, let's say there's 4 of them, and they're fighting the big bad. That's 4 attacks minimum against 1. Chances are they're going to go first. Big bad gets killed. Or big bad goes first, takes out 1 of them. There's 3 left. They still pile on the bad guy. So if there's 4 characters, maybe they have 8 attacks or more. Confound their environment, which is my next suggestion, so that you have these quote-unquote monsters and stat blocks reskinned as the bad guy's power, so that they must use their attacks, they must use their actions, they must decide whether they should attack the main bad guy and be subject to all of these things coming at them, or fight off the bad guy's power and split their resources. Now, of course, many players are going to say, well, we'll just go after the bad guy anyway. In which case, Lord Stavros has summoned a wall of fire and bolt of lightning, and his tongue is snatched out. And what does he do? He uses them as cannon fodder, right? Player character goes to strike, wall of fire jumps up, the paladin bursts through the wall of fire, trying to push it down, but feels that the very force of the fire is pushing him back, unable to strike at the big bad. All right, using, of course, the rules and using others to get in the way of attacks and things like that. Use those, because now that those quote unquote powers of the bad guy are creatures, now they can work together, giving advantage to each other to protect the bad guy, the big bad who Lord Stavros wants to live. That's just the whole point, right? Okay. So now we get to yet another thing. Use the environment, right? Use the environment. If this is the home turf of the big bad, he's not just going to be sitting down reading a book waiting for the good guys to come in and kill him, the wizard and the paladin and the rogue to stab him in the back without doing something, right? This person, Lord Stavros is my example, will have adequate resources, even if asleep. And I don't mean just bodyguards. I'm talking about the environment. Now, when you say environment, a lot of people think natural environment, like woodlands, you know, underground, underwater, in the ocean, the mountainsides, the desert. And yes, those are included in what I mean by the environment, right? So Lord Stavros has a mountain haven and is able to give a command or use a spell, or has a lever, or uses his mental powers, quote unquote mental powers, which is like a shadow demon or an invisible stalker or something like that, to cause an avalanche, cause an earthquake, cause a cave-in, throw boulders in a desert, or in a volcano, cause lava flow, or a burst of flame, or poison gas, or unstable ground, and use the environment. Now, there are two ways to use the environment. One's good, one isn't so good. The one that isn't so good is what I'm going to call a global effect. And a global effect is everyone who's in the area suffers something, right? So what I mean by that is you go into Lord Stavros's chamber, and everyone inside takes 2d6 damage. Or when you enter into Lord Stavros's bedroom, his security system or glyphs on the walls or something cause everyone to lose 3 points of intelligence every round, right? That's good, but to me, it's not dynamic enough, because it's automatically stating up front, and yes, you can use it, but it's automatically stating up front that, you know what, as players, you really don't have a choice in this. Everything's going to suck. And as a game master or dungeon master, I'm not giving you an opportunity to figure your way around it. What I like are, what I've written in the Cinematic Environs books with Critical Hit Publishing is the if-then statement, right? So Lord Stavros is in a mountain area, and there's an earthquake. And so then what you want to do is you want to confound the players. So if you miss a dex check or athletics check, then you will fall down and be hit by boulders. If you do this, then this will happen. If you focus your attacks on him, then his ball of lightning and wall of fire and mind of telekinetic power and shadow will have an advantage to hit you. If you do this, then this will happen. And those are allow players to have choices in tactically what they wish to do. Well, do I sneak around? That might leave my other party members undefended. Do I stay and defend the wizard so he can cast a spell, or do I run headlong through the wall of fire, through the ball lightning into Lord Stavros? Which do I want to do? That makes it more dynamic to make them choose. Lastly, when using the environment, step up, accelerate, add pressure, ticking clock, make things worse, right? The longer they wait, the longer this fight goes on, the worse things get, right? So Lord Stavros has power over fire and lightning and psychic powers and his own shadow, and the walls start collapsing and there's an earthquake and it starts to get worse, right? So the first round, okay, well, if I make my save, I won't fall down and fall prone because of the shaking from the earthquake that he's, rocking the chamber. Well, maybe in a round or two, it gets even worse, right? It's harder to make that saving throw. It's larger chunks of rock. It's not just, dust dribbling down your head and a pebble, bouncing off of a shield. These are 5-ton boulders now falling down. Allow the players to have the opportunity. Maybe we need to back out. Maybe we need to redouble our forces. Maybe we need to split up and have everything accelerated to add the pressure onto it. Use the environment. An example would be, and just like in the cinematic books that Critical Hit Publishing has put out, yes, I'm plugging myself here a little bit, but the idea that there are many creatures that have lair actions, and that's because they are in their own lair. You can do the same thing, right? All right. One more, and then an honorable mention, okay? Last one is, don't be afraid to overpower your big bad, okay? Don't be afraid. Sometimes we as game masters feel like, well, I really don't want to put in a red dragon, ancient red dragon, because they're only like 4th level. Or I don't know if I want a pit fiend to show up because they're only 7th level. Let them show up. Let the bad guy show up. Let the bad guy kick the ass of the player characters. There is nothing more that will motivate your players to want to continue in your campaign, to get their asses kicked, want to redouble their efforts, build up their resources, think about how to fight the bad guy, come back and kick his ass. And then the second time they fight the bad guy and kick his ass, it doesn't matter if they take him out in one round, because now they're like, hey, now we're prepared. Now we just raised 2 levels. We got a friggin' sword. Man, the wizard's got his spells. Oh, man, we're buffed up. We know what we're going to do now. We're going to take his ass out. It's great because now you've just extended the motivation. You've extended your world. Who knows if they have to travel to other realms? They have to explore through your setting, and that just makes it even better. Don't be afraid to overpower the bad guy. Here's another thing. Don't leave the treasure trove in a box in a hidden part of the cave. Why wouldn't the pit fiend use the magic staff of the wizard? Why wouldn't the red dragon drink the potion or read the spell book? Or why wouldn't the fire giant have the magic sword? Why wouldn't they use these magic items? They're there. If you put 3 healing potions in there, some bad guy's drinking them. They get hurt, they're going to snatch them out of there. Lastly, talking about drinking potions and using the treasure, prepare your bad guy like a PC. Prepare your bad guy like you're preparing a player character. If they have the ability to buff themselves, they will. They will use invisibility. They will use their defensive capabilities, their spells. They are not just waiting there, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for the players to come in and then go, oh, that's right, I've got 16 spells. I forgot about that. No, have those spells activated if and only if it makes sense for the encounter. If the player characters have figured out a way to surprise the bad guy, okay, so be it. Whatever. But if the big bad, the big effing bad guy is prepared, they are going to pull out all stops. they are going to turn invisible. They're going to shrink. They're going to turn ethereal, immaterial. They're going to teleport. They will backstab. They will separate the party. They will snatch someone away. They will entangle people. They will utilize the rules by making, causing conditions, blindness, tripping, falling, stunning, incapacitated, paralysis, all of those things, poisoning people, leading people into traps. Remember all those traps that happen to be throughout the dungeon that the players may have avoided? Have the bad guy backtrack through his own dungeon, forcing the players to fall down pits, be hit by spikes, to be burned, to be teleported, to be polymorphed, and all those things. And lastly, this is just the honorable mention. All of these ideas to make your big bad fight, chances are they're probably not going to work. Sorry to tell you that. Even if you follow all the examples, whatever, simply by the nature of role-playing games and rolling a 20-sided die in Dungeons and Dragons, or even any other game, in sci-fi games, all the best laid plans just don't work. It's just a thing. It's sorry, unless you're writing a book or writing a screenplay, or you've had 6 months to work out how exactly the story is going to go with 17 other writers to make it turn out well. It's not going to turn out like your favorite TV show. It's not going to turn out like your favorite movie. It's not going to turn out like your most engrossing novel you've ever written. Things are going to go bad. It's going to be all foobarred, and you're like, man, I can't believe this happened. So my last advice for the honorable mention for making the best boss fight you will ever have is have a backup bad guy. Backup bad guy. You brought in a pit fiend. You brought in Lord Stavros. Everything's built up to this one thing. Lord Stavros throws his lightning at everyone, and they just deflect it. Pulls his elemental wall of fire, and they just walk through it. Uses his vast mental powers to strike at them unseen, throwing boulders and choking them in the air and stuff, and they destroy your invisible stalker, like I said before, with reskinning, right? Okay, and his shadow comes around, and the great paladin's power just casts this dark shadow away, and they come up to Lord Stavros, and you are down, blah blah blah, chop his head off, and he's dead, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, an immaterial, disembodied voice from beyond. Is that Asmodeus? Demogorgon? Baal? Is that a demon? Is that a creature from beyond? A lich? Is that a great bad guy? Wait a minute. Is that the voice of the innkeeper? The kicked puppy that's been the best friend of the player characters from the beginning of the campaign? Is that their voice? Is that someone that was polymorphed or pretending to be their friend? Were they the main bad guy this whole time? What? Who? It took us this much power to defeat Stavros. Who could grant Stavros this much power? It's your backup bad guy. Okay? It's your backup story. Things don't work out. You know what? Crumple it, toss it away. You've always got another great idea. Always live to fight another day. Stavros was just the tip of the iceberg. There's more. There is always another person to fight. There's always somebody. Kind of Quantum Ogre-ish, kind of seeing how the sausage is made. You don't want to see that all the skin and bone is in there. But essentially, you want to create a dynamic story, and don't make it chintzy. Don't go, you beat the bad guy in one round. Instead, you hear disembodied voice, and it is the bad guy's bad guy. Yeah, his leader, and he shows up. Don't do that. Don't do that. Make it part of the story. Build it in. Make it dramatic. Make them think that they have the upper hand. Have the great cave collapse in on them. Have the fires burn and the lava bursts, and they run out of there and they take all the crap, and they're just like, yeah, everything's cool. And they get back to town, and somebody's friggin' kicked the friggin' puppy again when they get back to town. It's burnout, dead bodies. The tavern owner that they love so much, stumbles up to them and says, while you were away, we were attacked They took revenge on us for what you did to Lord Stavros. What will you do for us? And here we go with another game, another adventure. We're building on top of the next one. So these are my 7-ish ideas for tips for a boss fight. Hope you like it. Hope this video turned out well. I hope you actually can friggin' hear it. Lastly, DBJ, Davarian Jackson, as always, create, don't destroy. I like to end my videos with that. I love the creative process, whether it's creating new stories, creating new ideas, helping other people. Don't destroy those things. It's extremely easy to be negative about our hobby, about the things that we love, the people we interact with. Let's not be negative about it towards them or anything like that. Let's not destroy the creativity. Let's just help each other out. So anyway, DBJ, and I am out.